Part 36. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoya 11U. Chapter 353. After the lanterns were finished, because there were still some days before Yuan Day, so King Yu put all kinds of lanterns into the warehouse. If she hung it up now and lit a candle every day, Mother Su would cripple her if she didn't say she was distressed. She lit dozens or even hundreds of candles worth dozens of cents each day to play with, and scolded her for being a prodigal. I will probably carry the remaining candles with Father Su and go to the Yongfeng to sell them overnight. The weather is getting cold, and the whole village is in cat winter. Everyone was at leisure. Su Qingyu was a little restless again. Since she produced rice in the 100 or so hectares of fertile land in Yu, rice has been planted in other places in Yu, resulting in bumper yields. The price of upland rice in their mountains has become much lower. The taste of upland rice is definitely not as good as that of rice. But it is particularly difficult to open terraced fields, store water, and grow food on the mountain. It is not fertile enough to begin with, and it has to be protected from birds and beasts, and people have to be arranged to check day and night. It is several times harder than growing rice on flat land. But the effort is not proportional to the benefit. Su Qingyu was a little unwilling. The mountain people had no land, so they finally built terraced fields on the mountains and planted grains. Now the land is becoming more peaceful. Every state and city has planted grains and got more grains. The grains grown on the mountains can no longer be sold at a high price. Su Qingyu didn't want to see this situation. If these upland rice are processed for secondary processing, for example, processed into rice noodles and sold, will the profit be better than simply selling rice? Su Qingyu had previously sold portable food for marchers, merchants, and travelers in Fengting town, including various dried vegetables, dehydrated and oil-dried fruits and vegetables, and fried noodles. She cooperated very well with Su Shaiyan. Joy. She also made a lot of money. But now the north is still in constant war, and the south is also divided among various forces. Is it okay if there are some convenient foods that can be sold to the army to make convenient military rations, as well as to merchants and some travelers? First, it is convenient for people, and second, it can increase the price of upland rice, allowing mountain people to get more benefits. Just do it if you think of it. Su Qingnao asked Sudahua, Su's father, and others to pick up a few loads of upland rice from the cave. So I opened another rice noodle shop in the village and started studying it. After making the rice noodles, I tried different ways at home, including rice noodles with rice noodles, dry mixed rice noodles, fried rice noodles, crossbridge rice noodles, small pot hot rice noodles. After eating several meals, everyone in the family applauded. Dabao Bao and Xiao Bao especially loved to eat. The two brothers took one, sucked it into their mouths, and competed with each other to see who could suck it faster. The last half of the rice noodles with the soup was thrown into the faces of the two brothers and slapped their little faces. Both of them narrowed their eyes and looked like they were enjoying it. Seeing the two brothers whose faces were stained after eating a bowl of noodles, Su Qingyu felt disgusted. It's delicious. If you keep eating like this, I won't cook it for you again. The two of them were given a scolding, and then they became honest. Xiao Bao was always having fun. Dabao was originally a strict and orderly person, but now he was led by Xiao Bao to get out of control. There was a new food in the village. After making rice noodles for everyone in the cafeteria, everyone gathered around Su Qingyu and asked her to make more. With such delicious and easy to cook rice noodles, everyone wants to stock up on madong to eat at home. When Su Qingyu saw that the experiment was successful, he immediately led the women in the village to open up the rice noodle room. After making it, I stored a lot of it in the village and sent a lot of it to restaurants in the market town. Only 2 days later, Xiang Zhen and shopkeeper Ding came to the village to look for her. Xiang Zhen asked her to make more. Many mountain people in the shop were already asking and wanted to buy. Moreover, the small restaurant cannot deliver enough in one day, so it requires more delivery. Shopkeeper Ding saw business opportunities again and wanted to discuss cooperation with Su Qingyu. The rice noodles made by Su Qingyu will naturally be sold. She uses the Yongfeng to sell rice noodles to various places, sell upland rice in the mountains at high prices, and make the mountain people live a better life. This is the goal she has always strived to achieve. The village uses local methods and manual production, so 1 pound of rice can only produce 1.5 pounds of rice noodles, and after drying, only half a pound of dry rice noodles can be obtained. The price of rice noodles has to be twice the price of rice to be even. There is also manual labor, and there are many and complicated processes. Selling it too cheap is not cost-effective. Su Qingyu told Shopkeeper Ding this. Shopkeeper Ding originally wanted to keep the price down, but he didn't expect to hear what Su Qingyu said. He also heard that there were so many processes, so it was hard to keep the price down. I thought that rice noodles are indeed a food that is easy to store, carry, and cook. If I buy them in large quantities and sell them to various places through Yongfeng, there should be a huge market for them. The more quantity, the greater the profit. Then he and Su Qingyu discussed the price of rice noodles back and forth. Su Qingyu thought that their Yongfeng Hao would be sold to various places, which would cost a lot, and if it was sold to the civilian market, it would be difficult to raise the price too much. In the end, it was sold for 3 times the original price. Even if the price is not high, for Su Qingyu, it is much more cost-effective than selling sami alone. By raising the price of mountain rice and using excess manpower, the mountain rice in the village is sold at a higher price, and the villagers in Xinjiang get more profit, and their lives are naturally easier. And if the rice noodles from Yongfeng can sell well, and Su Qingyu buys back the excess rice from the 45 joint villages and processes it into rice noodles, then the lives of the mountain people in the joint villages will also follow suit. Better. Shopkeeper Ding ordered 10,000 kilograms of rice noodles from Su Qingyu and requested that they be made before the first day of the year. Su Qingyu calculated the daily output and agreed. Nowadays, there is no shortage of labor in the rice noodle room, and it is not a problem to produce thousands of kilograms of dry rice noodles in a day. Once everyone becomes proficient in the process, the daily output will be even higher. There is still 1 month before Yuan Day, so we can definitely deliver the goods. Complied. Shopkeeper Ding paid the money readily, and left happily carrying all kinds of food given by Su's mother. Su Qingyu was also very happy to get the money. Although it was only 300 taels, this was the first batch of goods. She believes she will sell more in the future. 10,000 kilograms of rice noodles had to be handed over before Yuan Day, and the village became busy again. Fortunately, he had more than enough manpower, so Mr. Guo recruited a group of hard-working men and women from the village, divided the work, and started working on each assembly line. Xiaobao and Dabao now have fun again. I would go to the rice noodle room every day and watch the rice noodles being dried in rows and rows, like cloth drying in a dyeing room, row after row. It looks spectacular. However, taking into account hygiene issues, we do not allow other people to approach. Xiaobao was also a smart child. He led a group of children to stand on the mountainside and look down. From time to time, they clapped their hands, stamped their little feet, and screamed. Enjoy it every day. I don't know what's good to see. He is almost 4 years old and is jumping up and down, making Dabao jump out of his skin. Su Qingyu had been busy for a few days. When she came home, she saw that her 2 sons were nowhere to be seen again, and she felt that this could not go on. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 354. Su Qingyu stood at the door and shouted in the direction of the rice noodle house, Dabao, Xiaobao. Hey, Mom is calling us. Xiaobao was stunned. This is the good thing about the village. If a parent wants to call his or her child, he can stand in the village and shout, and the whole village will hear it. The children immediately ran home as fast as they could. Hearing Sukingyu's shout, the villagers drying rice noodles smiled and looked in the direction where Xiaobao and the other children were. Xiaobao, your mother is calling you, go back quickly. It's too late, your mother should spank you. Some of those drying rice noodles were holding wet rice noodles, some were setting up poles, and some were spreading them on racks to dry. They all looked towards Xiaobao, smiling at his reaction. Everyone in the rice noodle house knew that there was a group of kids watching them halfway up the mountain every day. The children don't cause trouble, they just look at them and don't show them anything. Being teased by everyone, Xiaobao raised his head and said, "My mother won't hit us," but even though he said that, he felt quite uneasy. My mother has called them, and I dare not listen. He immediately turned around and took Dabao's hand. "Brother, hurry up, let's go home, it's too late, maybe my mother will really spank them." The two brothers held hands and ran home in a hurry, like being chased away by a dog. The people in the rice noodle shop couldn't help but laugh. The two sons of the village owner are so funny. Xiaobao hurriedly ran and shouted loudly, "Mom, we are back." The two brothers ran all the way, not daring to rest at all, and hurried into the house. Mother Su went to the door to catch them. "Oh, slow down, the road is very slippery, what should I do if I fall? By then, my nose will be bruised and my face will be swollen, it will not be cute anymore." "Grandma, you won't fall. We are very careful." "Okay. That's good. You have to walk slowly, you know. It's cold and the road can be slippery." "Okay. We will be careful and don't fall." After Xiaobao finished speaking, he ran to pick up Sukinjao's thighs. "Mom, why did you ask us to come back? We are at the rice noodle room. It's so beautiful. There are rows and rows of rice noodles." Before Sukingyu said anything, Su's mother went over and pulled her two grandsons. "What's there to see? It's cold outside. Let's go in and warm up by the fire with Grandma." After Su's mother finished speaking, she went to say to Sukingyu, "It's such a cold day, why are you calling them so loudly? Just ask someone to find them. When you call like this, they run back in a hurry and fall down on the road. How good is it?" Sukingyu touched her nose. "After having a grandson, my daughter was forgotten." Sukingyu touched the little hands of her two sons and saw that they were cold. She glared at them. "Are you not wearing gloves again? You will suffer from frostbite." When Su's mother heard this, she became anxious and said, "Let's go, come into the house with Grandma to warm up." She led them left and right into the house. After entering the house, the two of them were sitting on the bench and eating roasted nuts under the care of Su's mother. Sukingyu glanced at the two brothers and said, "Dabao, please memorize the 1,000-character essay to mother and listen to it." When Dabao heard this, he immediately put down the food in his hand and stood up. He straightened his little body, put his hands behind his back, and started to memorize it with a shake of his head. "The sky and the earth are dark and yellow, and the universe is primitive. The sun and the moon are full, and the stars are arranged. The cold comes and the summer goes, the autumn harvests and the winter hides. The leap years are full, and the laws and regulations are tuned. Positive." He shook his head while reciting it, causing everyone in the room to look at him. Xiaobao Nuts didn't eat any more. He opened his mouth wide and looked up at his brother. When Dabao finished reciting, he looked at Sukingnao. Sukingnao glanced at Qingyang, and Qingyang nodded to him. Dabao recited it very well, with no typos or pauses. Awesome. Although Dabao was steady, the corners of his mouth curled up happily. Everyone praised again, and Dabao was even more happy. When Xiaobao heard this, he was unhappy and stood up. "Mom, Xiaobao can recite the 3-character sutra and the surnames of hundreds of families. Then you should come and listen to my mother." Good. After Xiaobao finished speaking, he also imitated his brother's behavior, clasping his little hands behind his back, and began to learn how to carry it while shaking his head. I have to say that Xiaobao has a very good memory. These days, Sukingyu was so busy that she never asked them about their homework. The child must have spent a lot of time free, but he could still recite the contents of the two books smoothly. Sukingyu was very comforted. But I don't want to praise them, lest they get too proud. With a straight face, it's getting cold now. Grandpa Ma gave you a holiday and asked you to practice at home. Mom only sees you playing outside every day and doesn't even want to go back home, for fear that you will forget everything you have learned already. When Dabao heard this, he lowered his head. He put his little hands behind his back and scratched his palms. It's Dabao who's playful. I'm going to get slapped on the palm by my mother. And Xiaobao reasoned with his mother, we practice with Uncle Siyuan every day. Even when the uncles went hunting in the winter, we didn't practice. Xiaobao has not forgotten the three-character classic of hundreds of surnames that he learned before. Ah! Mom, I remember that Grandpa Ma asked you to learn how to read with your uncle every day, and he also asked you to write 5 large letters. Have you written it? Xiaobao opened his mouth, glanced at his brother, and lowered his head. Pick up your fingers. Qingyang looked at Sukingyu and wanted to say something, but shut up. During this time, everyone at home was busy, so he helped out and forgot about it. The two nephews were still young. Seeing that Xiaobao was happily playing with Dabao every day, he didn't mention it. Besides, my sister said that the world is in chaos now and the dynasty is unstable. Which court should I take the imperial examination with? Who are you loyal to? After 10 years of hard work, I took the imperial examination and did not serve as an official for 2 days. Then another emperor was changed. Once the emperor, then the official, maybe they would not recognize their merits again. He used to want to take the imperial examination to become an official in the court and change his family background. I don't think about it anymore. Father Su and Mother Su couldn't stand it. The two grandsons were still so young, King Yu, they are still young. Since they are on vacation, let them have fun. When spring comes and their master comes back, they can learn martial arts and literature with them. Sister. Qingyang also opened her mouth. Sukingyu pulled Dabao and Xiaobao over and said, you told mother last night that you wanted to be a powerful general in the future, right? Yes. I will definitely be a very powerful general in the future. Command many, many soldiers and horses. Like Han Xian, I will be a brave and strategic general. Xiaobao immediately clenched his fists and raised his neck and said proudly. Are there generals who can't read? They can't even read military books. They don't even know the names of their soldiers. Are there such generals? Well, Xiaobao is still young now. When I grow up, I will know many, many words. Su's mother wanted to speak, but Su's father pulled her back. Seeing Su's father staring at her, he stopped talking. Looking at the two children worriedly. Su's father never interfered in Sukingyu's education of his two children. His daughter is more knowledgeable than him. Children who are taught by her will definitely be more promising in the future. Seeing her two sons lowering their heads, Sukingyu added, have Xiaobao and Dabao seen the vegetables that Grandma planted outside the yard? If Grandma didn't take good care of them when they were seeds or seedlings, wouldn't they all not growing up? Yes, Dabao and Xiaobao nodded eagerly. So the same goes for reading. You have to learn it when you are a child, and you will remember it firmly when you grow up. For example, if you ask your grandpa, if you and grandpa are learning to read together, who will remember it best in a few days? It's Xiaobao. Grandpa can't even recite the 3-character sutra. Xiaobao immediately looked at his grandfather and smiled. Su's father was a little embarrassed and cooperated with Sukingyu. Yes, So Xiaobao must listen to mother and start learning to read now. When he is as old as grandpa, he will not be able to remember. When Su's mother heard this, she realized that was not the case. She also wanted to understand her eldest son's letter and recognized a few words, but she remembered it today but forgot it in a few days. He pulled the two children over and said, "From today on, how about you and your uncle write 5 big characters every day? In the future, how about reading letters to grandma and helping grandma write letters?" "Okay, grandma." Xiaobao knows a lot of words and will soon be able to help grandma read uncle's letters. He patted his chest and accepted the matter. Dabao also helps grandma read it. "Okay, you are such a good boy." Qingyang glanced at Sukingyu and immediately got up and took his two nephews to the study. "Yaya, let's go too." Sukingyu glanced at Yaya. Yaya was stunned for a moment. When Sukingyu and Wei Fukang saw it, they said to Yaya, "Yaya also goes to read with her brother." "Let's go, my aunt will accompany you." Qingxin came over, took Yaya's hand, and followed her out. Father Su and Mother Su were very happy when they saw that several children in the family went to the study room to read and read. It's great that this generation of kids is better than them. Next, Sukingyu made a study plan for Dabao and Xiaobao. Dabao's progress is faster, so he mainly lets him practice calligraphy and does not teach him new content. Xiaobao has studied 2 enlightenment books, but he doesn't know a few characters. He mainly focuses on character recognition and recognizes 5 new characters every day. I was afraid that their studies would be boring, so I would tell them short stories from the 3-character classic every day, as well as some short stories to encourage learning, and some short stories about heroes to motivate them. Then intersperse it with letting them learn some mathematical things to cultivate their rigor and logic. Sukingyu hopes to cultivate the organized, rational and systematic way of thinking in her 2 children from an early age. Xiaobao is sometimes too out of the box and not very definite. He thinks about things here and there, and his thinking is a little divergent. However, Dabao was taught by the strict Taixio teachers and his thinking was somewhat rigid and his way of thinking was somewhat single. Some are black and white. Of course, this also has something to do with the environment in which he grew up. But Sukingyu didn't want him to think like this in the future. Since they all call her mother, she also wants to do her best to raise them well and give them food and clothing so that they can become better people. Sukingyu then taught several children addition and subtraction within 100 words, and multiplication formulas. In order to stimulate the children's interest in learning mathematics, they were taught how to write Arabic numerals from 0 to 10. After they have learned it, let them play the Sudoku game. Start with a simple 4-square grid. Fill in the 4 numbers from 1 to 4 into 4 rows and 4 columns respectively, and make sure that the 4 numbers cannot appear repeatedly in each row and column. Of course, Sukingyu would fill in 1 or 2 numbers in each row and column before letting the children fill in the missing spaces. Sure enough, the 2 children were aroused by Sukingyu. The 2 brothers grabbed the charcoal pencils Sukingyu had made for them, biting one end and then burying their heads in thought. There were heated arguments from time to time. "Can't fill in this, it's repeated. This is wrong to fill in." In order to complete the game, the brothers didn't even bother to eat. Qingxing also took Yaya to learn mathematics with her, and also developed a strong interest in Sudoku. In addition to several children, there were also 2 new adults. Sudahu and Wei Fukang. Sudahu didn't know a few Chinese characters, but he was very interested in mathematics. Especially the multiplication table that Sukingyu taught the children to memorize. He found that after learning this, it was easier to calculate the accounts and he knew how to spend the money. But Wei Fukang felt as if a new door had been opened. Wouldn't it be simpler and more efficient to use such foreign numbers to make accounts? Also saved a lot of time. He immediately excitedly pulled Sukingyu to confirm. Sukingnan was stunned when he pulled her over to ask. She hadn't thought about using the Arabic numerals to make accounts. She just wants to train her two children to think about problems in a mathematical way of thinking, and develop a more open and rigorous and systematic thinking mode in the children. It takes Xiaobao several days to recognize 10 numbers. It is not as easy to recognize as Arabic numerals, and it can stimulate children's interest in learning. Unexpectedly, Wei Fuqian saw the beauty of this. I saw that he was handling the accounts of each shop at the end of the year, conducting reconciliation and inventory, but I gave him 11 figures and some accounting methods. He also drew detailed ledger books for his purchases, sales, and deposits. Wei Fuqian's eyes became brighter and brighter. In this way, detailed classification according to the name of the goods, purchase, sale, and inventory, and then summary can save the accounting office a lot of time, and it is simple and clear. This kind of digital accounting is easy to be tampered with. In addition to special notations to prevent tampering, important matters must also be marked with their corresponding words. Okay. By the time Su Qingnao and Wei Fuqian agreed on the account book, Dabao and Xiaobao were no longer satisfied with the four-square grid. Qingyang was older than the other children and had stronger comprehension skills than them. He quickly grasped the key points of the four-gong grid. He also taught Qingxing and Yaya. Dabao Xiaobao is slightly weaker than Qingyang, but he mastered it quickly. They even taught Yaya together. Mom, this is too easy. Xiaobao has already mastered it. Is there anything more difficult? This four-square grid is so interesting. Really, has Xiaobao learned it? Where is Dabao? Mom, Dabao has learned it too. Seeing Yaya also nodding, she said, okay, then the more difficult six-gong grid will be next. After the six-gong grid, there will be the even more difficult nine-gong grid. We also made a six-square grid game for them. Within a few days, the children learned it again. Then he drew a 9-square grid for them. This Jagaga is a bit difficult. There are 9 rows and 9 columns. You should fill in the numbers from 1 to 9 and make sure there are no repetitions. Several children were addicted to it again. Seeing that they were obsessed with mathematics and didn't even learn to read, Su Qingyu thought, this is not good. Being biased is not a good thing. Immediately break up the words they know and write them on pieces of paper. Let them find the pieces of paper and spell them into the correct words. In order to arouse children's enthusiasm for school, Su Qingyu tried all kinds of ideas. I almost feel like I'm going bald. Even Su's father, Su's mother, Su Qingliu, and others also started playing the game and learned to read. More active than several children. Su Qingliu became interested because Su Qingyu mentioned the matter of prenatal education. The child is already conscious when it is in the mother's belly. If the child's prenatal education is done well, it can promote the child's brain development and make the child more talented than other children. Su Qingliu also followed several children to learn Chinese characters, mathematics, and play various small games. In such a happy mood, the whole family stayed indoors, and soon the first day of the new year arrived. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 355. Firecrackers went off all night, fireworks came from Shendi capital, torches and silver flowers were noisy in the middle of the night, and singing and wind music in 6 streets were in full swing. Red. Firecrackers didn't exist in this dynasty, and Su Qingyu didn't have the ability to make them. I don't want to make it even if I have the ability. The matter is too big and too obvious. It didn't fit in with her idea of just being quiet. But on the first day of the first lunar month, the rooster crows. Firecrackers are fired in front of the court to avoid the evil spirits from the mountains. Firecrackers are still allowed on the first day of the year. There are a lot of bamboos in the mountains. I cut a dozen or so bamboos, and they were burned in the sun early and piled in the woodshed. On the early morning of the first day of the year, while she was still sleeping with her two sons in her arms, Su's father and Qingyang set off firecrackers in the courtyard. Light a fire and burn the bamboo in the fire. The crackling sound of firecrackers woke up the whole family. Xiaobao and Dabao were so frightened that they sat up from the bed. Their eyes were blurred. The two of them sat in a daze, not understanding the situation. When their mother told them not to be afraid, it was Grandpa and Uncle who were setting off firecrackers, they immediately became energetic. He ran outside without even wearing any clothes. "Uncle Grandpa, why don't you wait for Xiaobao? Why don't you wait until Dabao gets up?" The two children ignored Sukingyu's calls from behind, grabbed their shoes and ran out, complaining that their grandfather was a bad person. It was obviously agreed yesterday that the firecrackers would not be fired until Dabao and Xiaobao got up. "Ouch, why did you run out without clothes?" Su's mother was so frightened that she went forward and hugged the two brothers. The two of them were still struggling. "I want to watch the firecrackers." Okay, let's take a look. We'll take a look after we get dressed." Seeing the two children struggling to rush out, Mother Su shouted loudly, "His father, Qingyang, don't explode yet." Qingyang ran in, "No more explosions, no more explosions. When Dabao and Xiaobao are freshened up, Uncle will take you to firecrackers." Su's father also came in and rubbed his hands in the cold. "I won't explode anymore. Grandpa exploded early to get some good luck. When the big and little babies are done washing up, Grandpa will expose the rest to you." Good. Only then did the two of them obediently follow the adults to dress and wash themselves. With the Su family's firecrackers, every household in the village also set off firecrackers. The sounds are getting louder and louder, one after another. Both children could not wash themselves at ease, so they tilted their heads and listened with pricked ears. "I just want to run." The firecrackers burst and the whole family was woken up. Unable to wait for breakfast, the two children dragged their uncle and grandpa to the courtyard to firecrackers. Su Qingliu stood at the door with her belly in her hands and watched. Wei Fukang supported her nervously. Seeing Su Qingyu looking at her worriedly, Su Qingliu said with a smile, "I don't know whether this child wants to join in the fun or is afraid." When he heard the sound of firecrackers, he kept churning in my stomach. It disturbed me so much that I couldn't sleep anymore. I wanted to lie down for a while. Mother Su touched her belly. Seeing that the child was not moving now, she smiled and said, "It seems that he likes to watch the excitement. Now he is listening quietly in his belly when there are firecrackers." Su Qingyu was afraid that the baby would be frightened and the fetal movement would be too large, which would be bad, so she advised her to go back to the house. Unexpectedly, Su Qingliu had just entered the house. The sound of firecrackers was too weak, and the child was beating in his stomach again. As soon as she came out at the door, she heard the voice become clearer and her stomach stopped moving again. It made everyone laugh. "Looks like this is another brat." Wei Fukang also shook his head and laughed. On the first day of the new year, every household wears new clothes and hats, and goes to every house to pay New Year greetings. After each family in the village had fired firecrackers, they went to Su's house one after another to pay New Year's greetings to Su Qingyu, the village owner. The little kids got together and ran around the village happily. At noon, after the family had a lively reunion dinner, Su Qingyu asked the men in the village to take out the lanterns and candles from the warehouse, and asked Wei Fukang and Sudahu to take charge of them and send them to the market town to hang them up. Tonight is the first lantern festival in Lianzai. We have notified all the villages early, so it should be very lively. When the sun turns west, except for those on duty, the people in the village can't leave the village. All other men, women, old and young go to the market town. I originally thought that Xinjianzai was close and I should go there earlier. Unexpectedly, before I even got closer, I saw the market town full of noise and excitement. As we got closer, we found that we could no longer walk on the road and there were people standing outside the market town. Business stalls were set up outside the market town. Various aromas of oil, gas, and pot gas smoke fill the air. It's so lively that you can't feel the slightest bit of cold. It seems that the popularity of this first Yuan Lantern Festival is extremely high. When Sukingyu and others entered the center of the market town with Ziyuan and others leading the way, they saw that the village owners were leading the men from each village to help Qiliang, Luxiu, and others maintain order. Seeing Sukingyu, many village owners crowded over. With smiles on their faces, they were all extremely excited. "President, it's so lively. This is the first time in my life that I've seen such a lively scene in the mountains." "Yeah, it's my first time seeing you too." "It's worth it." "How old are you?" "It's worth it. This is the first one. It will happen every year in the future. I'm afraid you won't be able to see it." Master Zonghan and Master Kun also came to grab her hand. "King Yu, thank you for coming to the mountain. Otherwise, uncle, where would I have seen such a scene? How have we ever seen such beautiful lanterns? How could we know what they are? I didn't expect to see the lantern festival in our mountains. It's worth dying for." Sukingyu smiled and said, "Uncle, I need to take good care of myself. When the village becomes rich, we will try to hold it every year. Maybe we can hold it several times a year. We can also have a Mid-Autumn Lantern Festival in the Mid-Autumn Festival, not necessarily it won't be done until the first day of the year." "Okay, that's great." When the last ray of afterglow in the sky disappeared behind the mountain, Suqing'an shouted, "Light the lanterns." "Yes. Light the lanterns," the voice spread. The men who were responsible for lighting and guarding the lanterns under the lanterns on the streets of the market town immediately lit the lanterns. At the same time, the 2 lanterns at the door of each shop were also lit at the same time. In an instant, the lights in the market town were as bright as day, shining brilliantly. "Wow! Wow, it's so beautiful! It's so beautiful! That's the rabbit lantern. There's also a carp lantern." All kinds of exclamations were heard. Since few of the mountain people could read, Suqing'an assigned a man to each lantern. In addition to lighting the lanterns and adding fuel to the fire, he also had to help everyone read the riddles. The men who couldn't read had already memorized the riddles they were responsible for, the riddles and the answers. There were a lot of people around each lantern, watching the lanterns and guessing the riddles, and it was lively. Many mountain folks have never left the mountains in their lives, so how could they have seen a lantern festival? They have never even heard of it. Seeing so many lanterns of various styles, and all kinds of beautiful patterns, and guessing riddles, with prizes, my eyes were wide open. Fortunately, I came with my family today, otherwise I would not have seen such a grand sight. The lanterns meandered in the market town like a giant dragon, and the lights were bright. In addition to watching lanterns and guessing riddles, various games were also set up at the door of the shops in each village and on the open space in the market town. Rings, pitching pots, archery, wrestling, wooden shooting, kicking keys, fighting herbs, 6-game, hidden hooks. Sukingmei asked the village chiefs to think of some fun games and programs. Unexpectedly, they came up with so many games, many of which Sukingmei had never seen before. So she pulled her 2 sons aside to watch with great interest. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 356. Dabao and Xiaobao are very excited tonight. Read. There are beautiful lanterns, a lot of delicious food, and a lot of fun things. They want to see everything, eat everything, and play all kinds of games. Taking advantage of the small crowd, squeeze in and out of the crowd. Think of this as a fun game. The brothers couldn't be happier. Seeing many children fighting grass, Dabao and Xiaobao squeezed in again. He soon won over a group of children, making the 2 brothers jump for joy. Seeing that there was no more challenge, the two went to play ring roping and pot throwing again. Sukingyu thought that the two brothers were young and just wanted them to participate. Unexpectedly, the two brothers learned kung fu from Ma Xian for a period of time, and they were quite accurate. Even if you throw the pot 10 times, you can hit 2 or 3 times. He also won 1 or 2 prizes, which made them both extremely excited. You have to play each game one by one. Also waited patiently in line. Sukingyu also went with them. The whole market town was brightly lit and very lively. The various lanterns dazzled the mountain residents. In addition to various lantern riddles, games, and various snacks. Everyone watched happily and ate happily. President, if you look at how lively it is, I'm afraid I won't even come back until early in the morning. Sukingyu was a little worried about whether it would be dangerous for the mountain people to walk at night, would it be unsafe to go back to the farther villages too late? The village owners didn't care. What's the matter? Which mountain person hasn't walked on the night road? Then the people from the first village will light up torches to see what monsters dare to approach. That's good. I'm just worried about something happening. Some children and old people. It's okay, it's okay. In the same village, everyone will take care of each other. I've expressed my anger with the village owners a long time ago. Everyone attaches great importance to safety issues. That's right. President, don't worry. This is a rare opportunity. Everyone came here early. Before the lights were lit, everyone played the game for several rounds in the morning and afternoon. President, you didn't watch. Shopkeeper Ding of the Yongfeng just told me that the supplies were low. His Yongfeng account makes a lot of money. The village owners were envious of him. Yes. Now everyone has money in their pockets. They are also willing to eat and wear clothes. Seeing that everyone was talking more and more crookedly, Zongjai leader interrupted everyone and said to Sukingyu, President, look at how lively it is today, everyone hasn't seen enough. Waiting once a year is too long, isn't it? Sukingyu glanced at him leisurely. What do you mean, Uncle Zhong? How about we hold another lantern festival in Zongkaiu? After saying that, he rubbed his hands and looked at her expectantly. Seeing everyone looking at her with burning eyes, Sukingyu pretended to be in pain. Do you know how much money I will burn this night? Those candles are sold outside, and the price is not low. President, King Hui, why do you only have money in your eyes? You see, my uncle is so old, how can he have a few more years to live? Every year is less and less, how many times do you have to look at me? Then your Beiji eye covers all the expenses. The leader of Zongjai choked. How can we all cover the expenses for our village? Chairman, look, with so many people setting up stalls today, we should be able to collect a lot of money. The shops in each village also sold a lot of goods and made a lot of money. It's not enough, then ask for more sponsorship from Yongfeng. Okay, you have learned how to ask for sponsorship from companies. We'll discuss it later in the Mid-Autumn Festival. We'll see what everyone wants then. It doesn't have to be a lantern festival, it can also be in some other form. By then, the Mid-Autumn Festival will also be able to create some other excitement. Okay, as long as the president is willing to think about it, it will definitely be lively. That's it, what kind of brain will we have? As long as she is willing to think about it, there is nothing impossible. Okay, let's watch your fun. He knew that he would ask her to pay and flatter her. Several old men left her and ran to watch the fun. This lantern festival is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, so I need to see it more often. Sukingyu also went to find his two sons. Except for Sukingyu, Dabao, and Wei Fukang, the rest of the family had never seen the lantern festival, and they were watching it with gusto. Although Dabao had seen the lantern festival before, he was held by an adult and looked away in a hurry. How could he watch, play games, and eat so many delicious foods like today? In his little heart, the child just felt that today's Lantern Festival was the most beautiful and fun Lantern Festival he had ever seen in his life. Today's Lantern Festival will remain deep in the children's memories. It's not just the mountains that are bustling on New Year's Day. The Jin and Yan states far to the north were also lively. It was a gratifying event for King Jin and King Yan to repel the Liang dynasty army and secure the territory. So, spend a lot of money, and the excitement will come. I don't know where there are so many different kinds of candles, not only in various shapes, but also in various colors. There are different styles, including flowers, cats, and dogs, and they can also emit a nice fragrance when lit. Never seen it before. Strange. Purchase. Not buying it will not show the wealth of the two places. The lamps and candles in every room and courtyard of the two palaces were lit all night long, making them as bright as day. He also distributed the rewards among his subordinates. Even Lu Bachan got a lot. After the great victory in Luzhu, King Wen Gongren of Yan was so happy that he sent Lu Bachan money, military rations, and various daily sundries. He also gave him 4 peerless beauties. The solicitation is very obvious. Mukong took a look and realized that this was not possible. Lu Bachan was the one I asked to help. Can you win over him? Whatever the king of Yan gave, the king of Jin also gave it. Also doubled the amount. It fully shows Jindi's spirit and confidence, as well as Jindi's sincerity. There are beauties, fat and thin, all kinds. You, King Yan, will give you 4, and I will give you 8. There are many beauties in our country of Jin. Big breasts, thin waist, round butt, dignified and lively, bright Xiajiabiu, all kinds are available. As long as you don't have broken sleeves, there is always one you like. Lu Bachan is so troubled. In the past, we only saw the emperor giving beauties to the marshal, but now the kings of the two places are vying to give him beauties. What did the marshal do in the past? Kneel down towards the palace and thank your majesty for your gift. I am afraid that I will go through fire and water for your majesty. Then send the person to his wife to teach him the rules, and then let his wife arrange the beauty's bedtime. It seems to be such a process. Lu Bachan shook his head desperately. If he sends people to the lady and asks her to help set rules for them, will the lady jump? And then charge at him with a knife? Lu Bachan shivered several times. That picture is so beautiful. Forget it. The country of Yan was too far away, and the messenger had already abandoned the 4 beauties and ran away. Now that the land is blocked by heavy snow, we have to send them back, and we have to work hard for the brothers to go back and forth. Not a good deal. It's better to keep it for now and plan later in spring. But Jin was not far away, so Lu Bachan decided to send someone to send the 8 beauties back. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 357. The beauty was sent back. Read. Mukong looked at it and wondered why none of the 8 beauties he had carefully selected were what Lu Bachan liked. Is he so picky? It shouldn't be. Or did his subordinates not do what he asked? So Mukong went to see the 8 beauties in person, walked in front of them, and looked at them carefully one by one. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Their eyes were full of affection, and their mouths were smiling. He was itching to see them. Lu Bachan didn't like any of them. Is he really gay? I heard that he got married before he went to the battlefield. He was the son of a small vendor and married a peasant girl. He joined the army after 1 month of marriage. How could they have deep feelings? And a peasant girl, no matter how beautiful she is, will fade after not seeing her for a few years. And he doesn't even know if she is still alive. Lu Bachan has been single for so long, but he is not moved. Is that thing useless, or is his brain broken? Or, he doesn't like any of them? Or does he have a bigger plan? leading 20,000 people to support Yan state in repelling the 100,000 troops of Liang dynasty. He has the guts to make demands. What does Lu Baqin want? No matter what he wants, try to satisfy him. Now he can't be won over by Wen Gongren. Wen Gongren is a thief with ambitions. Do you think he can't understand? Mukong was disdainful. If he wasn't worried that Liang dynasty would attack Yan first and then attack Jin, would he lend troops to Wen Gongren? He hasn't settled the account with him when he rebelled against Jin. Soon, Lu Baqin received the messenger of King Jin again, asking him to take a group of subordinates to attend the celebration banquet held by King Jin for him on New Year's Day. Lu Baqin was a little overwhelmed. I don't know what Mukong is waiting for him. He knew that Mukong wanted to use him. Now that he had won a big victory, both King Jin and King Yan wanted to win him over. Not to mention the 10,000 elite soldiers under his command, just say more than 10,000 good horses, that is also something that neither of the two places wanted to give up. More than 10,000 good horses, almost all the military horses in Fengxiang. When the city was besieged by Wu Quanzhong, he was reluctant to let these military horses die tragically, nor did he want them to fall into the hands of Wu Quanzhong's army, so he asked 10,000 elite soldiers to take almost all of them out. These more than 10,000 people plus more than 10,000 horses are the only ones left in Fengxiang. He doesn't want to rely on any party. But now Mukong wants to use him. Why doesn't he want to use him, Mukong? After Lu Baqin figured it out, he took several military leaders and a group of battalion commanders, plus Go Wa and another personal soldier, and a group of more than 20 people went to the Jinwang mansion for a banquet. Mukong wanted to win over Lu Baqin and recruit him. The celebration banquet was extremely grand. All kinds of fine wines and delicacies were arranged, as well as drums, music, singing and dancing performances, and beautiful women were arranged to serve Lu Baqin and his men. Each of Lu Baqin's men was a beautiful woman, and each of them was charming. Pouring tea and wine, and feeding him, there is no need for a group of rough hands to do it. The beauty leaned on his arms, and the bones of the men were soft. And Lu Baqin had two beauties on his left and right. Not to mention feeding, everything was taken care of. Wherever Lu Baqin looked, there would be a beauty to help him get it. Lu Baqin didn't even need to move a finger. He felt like a useless person. Like the old man who had a stroke next door to his house when he lived in Fengting town. He couldn't move anything, only his eyeballs could move, and his family and servants judged what he was going to do based on the direction of his eyeballs. Lu Baqin was so irritable. He wanted to overturn the table. He wanted to take a chopstick, but the beauty didn't let him do it, snatched his chopsticks, picked up this and that kind of food and handed it to his mouth. He had to eat it. Mukong was sitting on the throne and glanced at him from time to time. He sent back 8 beauties. Mukong must have thought he was incompetent, right? Or do you want to observe whether he is gay? Then will you send him a few handsome men next? Oh. No. Just thinking about that scene, Lu Baqin got goosebumps all over his body. Just when he was distracted, a beautiful woman put her hand into his clothes. Lu Baqin shuddered again and immediately pressed her wrist with his hand. Commander Lu, is it because I didn't serve you well? A pair of charming eyes looked at him. Lu Baqin hurriedly avoided her eyes. Pulled her hand out and threw it away. The beauty said, "Oh, Commander, you are not gentle at all. Why are you so rude to me?" The beauty on the other side saw that Lu Baqin didn't like the coquettish look, and immediately changed her appearance. Commander is brave on the battlefield and is a real man. My 2 sisters admire him very much. I wish I could follow you and let you drive me. Then she walked behind Lu Baqin and massaged his shoulders. Lu Baqin wanted to shake her off, but he saw Mukong looking at him, so he had to hold back. He raised his wine glass and gestured to his men, and they all started drinking. Apart from other things, the food and wine were very good. Let's have a good meal first. Why not eat for free? It's unnecessary to save food for Mukong. Commander Lu, you seem to like the food in our Jin area. Mu Yuxian raised his glass to Lu Bachan. At first, he was a little disdainful when he heard his father say that he wanted to invite Lu Bachan to support Yan. Unexpectedly, after just one battle, Lu Bachan's 10,000 elite soldiers shocked Yan and Jin. Now not only his father wants to win over Lu Bachan, but Yan Wang Wengongren also wants to win him over. He led 50,000 troops and was defeated by Wengongren. Even if he looked down on Lu Bachan, he couldn't let Lu Bachan be won over by Wengongren. Otherwise, once the Yan region becomes bigger and stronger, how can the Jin region have a foothold? Lu Bachan raised his glass to Mu Yuxian and responded, I'm just a big old man. In the army, I could even chew grass roots. To me, this delicacy is no different from the fairy's jade liquid. And the taste is very suitable for me. Meaning. Then he raised his glass to Mukong and said, Thank you so much, King Jin, for inviting Bocheng to come and have a drink. After hearing this, Mukong smiled and said, As long as it matches Commander Lu's taste. Come on, let's drink. Thank you, Prince Jin. Prince Jin, please. Behind the veil, Mukong's daughters were hiding there. Why did your father let us see a bunch of rough guys? You are old enough, and your father is worried about your marriage. What else can you do? It sounds like you are not the same. Or do you already have someone you like? Don't talk nonsense. I don't like a bunch of rough guys. You don't even look down on me, and yet you still talk about me. There are quite a few of them who don't look like rough men, but rather young and handsome. Where are you young? They are all in their 20s. A bunch of old men. A man in his 20s and above is an old man? Sister, you want to find someone who is 15 or 16 years old. What kind of boudoir fun does such a young man know? I don't know any better than you. You've already been married. Of course you know better than me. You. Okay, keep your voice down. Father asked us to take a look. Let's just take a look. What should we do if our father asks us about it later? What can I do? Aren't they just a bunch of rough guys? I don't want to marry such a person. Humph, there's nothing good to see, so I won't read it. A younger man threw up his sleeves and left. The remaining few looked at each other. Neither leaving nor staying. Only the older woman, who had just been scolded by her younger sister for knowing how to enjoy the boudoir, stared directly in Lu Bachan's direction. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 358. After having enough food and wine, Mukong arranged accommodation for Lu Bachan and others in the palace. Read. After everyone left, Mukong called his daughters to ask questions. Mukong not only had many sons and adopted sons, but also many daughters and adopted daughters. There are also many unmarried ones. Seeing that Lu Bachan was young and promising, he wanted to win over him, either with money or beauty. Lu Bachan remained unmoved by money and beauty. Then the only way to control him is to pull him into your own camp and make him your own. If you cannot be one of your own, you are a stranger and an opponent. Father, I don't like to marry a rough guy who only knows how to fight and kill. Mukong asked around, but none of the daughters answered. Only the youngest daughter Mu Yaoying said this categorically. Mukong looked helplessly at the youngest and most beloved daughter, and sighed, My father is also a rough man, don't you like my father too? I like my father. My father is different from them. Seeing her daughter's coquettish look, Mukong felt helpless. In the past 2 years, he has felt that the sun is setting and his health is getting worse and worse. This is also the reason why he suppressed Yuxian and all his subordinates and refused to proclaim himself emperor. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for 2 years, and Yuxian won't be able to shoulder this burden. As for his unmarried daughters, especially his youngest daughter Yaoying, whom he had loved since childhood, he also wanted to make arrangements for her before he left. Lu Baqin is a man who is not moved by money or seduced by beauty. He is brave and powerful on the battlefield and has a magnanimous personality. He is a real man. There will definitely be some achievements in the future. He wanted to tell Lu Baqin to Yaoying. Regardless of whether Lu Baqin will follow his Mu family or stand on his own in the future, Yaoying will be able to live a good life and enjoy a lifetime of glory and wealth. As for Lu Baqin being married, it was nothing to him. For a peasant woman, in war-torn times, she was not sure whether she would survive or not. Even if he didn't die, he might still get married. Even if you don't get married, you can just give her some money. If you can't get rid of it, just find a yard to settle it, what's the point? He believed Yaoying could handle it well. But he never expected that Yaoying didn't like Lu Baqin. Lu Baqin is the commander-in-chief of the First Army, and he is not very old, only in his early 20s. He has sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, and a handsome face. How can he be a big boss? Mukong refused to give up and respectfully advised him. Humph, the blood is all over the body from the fight. My daughter won't be able to sleep. Besides, who knows if he will have today or tomorrow. The husband you found for your eldest sister also said that he is very brave and can lead an army. But in the end, my daughter didn't want to be a widow. When Mukong heard this, he glanced in the direction of his eldest daughter Qianhua. He also feels sorry for this eldest daughter. He had chosen a good husband for her, but unexpectedly he died on the battlefield. Qianhua became a widow and returned to her parents' home without even a child. Empty at the knees. Make him sad. Mu Qianhua lowered his head after listening to his younger sister's words. The fists were clenched tightly in the wide sleeves, and the fingertips were pinched into the palms of the hands. But she felt no pain at all. This little sister, relying on her father's favor, repeatedly attacked her. One day, she will make her look good. See Qianhua taking a handkerchief to wipe her tears. Mukong couldn't bear it, glared at her younger daughter, and comforted her eldest daughter, Qianhua, your sister said the wrong thing. She didn't mean it, don't take it to heart. You are still young, what do you want to find? Man, tell your father, he has come for you. Mu Qianhua wiped the corners of his eyes, raised his head and glanced at Mukong aggrievedly, Father, is it true? Mu Yehua glanced at her, feeling disdainful and pretending. Seeing that her eldest daughter was sad, Mukong nodded repeatedly and said softly, Really, whatever you like, my father will do as you wish. Mu Qianhua lowered his head, Well, Commander Lu, my daughter thinks he is pretty good. Ah, Qianhua likes him. Mu Yaoying also looked at her, Sister, you are older than him. Dare to think. Ever since she was young, whenever her father gave her something, the eldest sister would fight for it and ask for it from her father. Now that her father has told her about Lu Baqin, she wants it too. I want to compete with her for everything. Lu Baqin didn't know what the father, daughter, and others said after he left. He and a group of his men sat in the flower hall in the front yard, avoiding people. Lu Baqin glanced at his subordinates one by one, Did your bones get crispy just now? Hee. That's a bit. It's not crispy, it's half numb. Haha, isn't it numb? The beauty's little hands were as soft as boneless. She held a piece of meat and handed it to my mouth. You think, can I not eat it? Can I not eat it? I can't see the beauty crying in front of me. Look at your potential. It's up to you. A beautiful woman can tell the difference between north and south, brother. You still don't think, is this wine good to drink? Delicious. Brother, is this dish delicious? Yummy. Look at you like that. You are very good. Sister, give your brother a pat on the shoulder. There, yes, yes, go up, go up. Knee angle, I have goosebumps. It's just you, you're unmoved. Lu Bachin looked at his subordinates one by one and said, don't you have any other ideas because of Prince Jin's beauty trap? It is said that for men who have been in the military camp for a long time, seeing sows is like seeing fairies. Just looking at everyone's performance today, Lu Bachin understood the true meaning of these words. After listening to the commander's words, all the subordinates sat upright. They all shook their heads. That's not possible. Are we able to sway the morale of the army so easily? No matter who the king of Jin is, King Yan, we don't recognize him, so we just follow the commander. We will go wherever you go. That's right. We are subordinates of the commander, not Prince Yan of Jin. That's right. You are eating, drinking, and being served by a beautiful woman, but you still push her away? If you don't want to eat or drink, isn't that a fool? That's right, it's good to touch your little hands. Those hands are so tender, white and smooth. My black and thick hands are too embarrassed to touch them. Hee hee. When Lu Bachin saw Qian Quan smiling obscenely, he was so angry that he grabbed something and threw it at him. Look at your prospects. Everyone laughed when they saw Qian Quan hiding in embarrassment. After Qian Quan dodged, he sat upright and said with a straight face, don't worry, we eat and drink and we touch our little hands, but we know the same in our hearts and we won't be divided and eaten by others. That's right. Commander, don't worry. We are not easy to fall into the trap of Americans. It's just that a beautiful woman wants to fall into our trap. Then we are too cheap. That's right, at least 10 or 8. Forget it, it will hurt your brain not to argue with this group of big bosses who have never seen a female hunter in years. Lu Bachin dismissed them, leaving him alone to think about Mukong's intention. Today we have fine wine and delicious food, but we don't know what will happen tomorrow. He didn't know what else was waiting for him. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 359. After Yuan Day, Mukong held banquets in honor of Lu Bachin and his men almost every day. Sometimes he accompanied him personally, and sometimes he had several sons and generals at various levels accompany him. Lu Bachin ate the food, drank the wine, and blew the cowhide, but the beauty just didn't want it. You can pour me tea and wine, and I welcome you to serve me dishes, but don't follow me back to the house. My bed is too small, not big enough for me to toss around alone. If there is another beauty, it will be too crowded and I won't be able to sleep. If I don't sleep well, I will lose my temper. When I lose my temper, I don't know what I will do. When the servant reached Mukong's ears, he was not angry. Instead, he looked at Lu Bachin highly. I wanted to do it quickly. But he didn't expect his eldest daughter Qianhua to fall in love with him. Since my daughter likes him, I can't treat him like an ordinary general. If other generals didn't sleep with beauties, he would think that they might have a bigger agenda, but once he saw him as his son-in-law, his refusal to sleep with beauties was not a problem, but a rare quality. Very good. Qianhua has a good eye. It's this Yao Ying, why is it that she can't even look down on such a person? Oh, worry. But Qianhua is also good. They are all my own biological children. The son-in-law originally chosen for Qianhua was not only a womanizer but also a brave warrior and one of his warriors. Unexpectedly, he died early on the battlefield, leaving Qianhua widowed at a young age. Now she finally has the person she likes. As a father, she must support her no matter what. Must support. So in the next few days, Lu Bachin discovered why Mukong became so talkative. He also asked him what he needed. Is the army short of food, men, and money? Niangle, is Mukong possessed by something dirty? It's so scary, like a different person. Lu Bachan was puzzled. When they returned to the small courtyard arranged for them by Mukong, they saw that all their subordinates had gone to drink and had not returned yet. Didn't say anything. Lu Bachan also turned a blind eye to the performance of all his subordinates. He is not their father and mother, so he can still control them from finding women. No man can bear the tender beauty taking the initiative to throw herself into his arms. He, Lu Bachan, was not a man. Thinking about the 3 chapters of the agreement that his wife made with him on their wedding night, and thinking about what she said about being together for the rest of their lives. The lady said that even if he died in the battle, she would not marry another man. How could he let her down? Besides, he already has a son, so why would he look for a woman? He has no money to raise a son. He was very poor. His horses were almost out of food. He was heartbroken if he couldn't eat anything delicious every day. There is no money to support women and children. General, what can you not raise? Guo suddenly appeared quietly from behind him and asked. Lu Bachan was quietly startled. How come you don't make any sound when you walk? You scared me. Ah. What is the general thinking so obsessed with? I miss women. Ah. General, you miss a woman? You, how can you miss a woman? What should I do with my sister-in-law? Keep your voice down. Lu Bachan looked outside and let out a sigh of relief. I don't know what I'm afraid of. Before Lu Bachan could speak, Go Wa felt that what he had just said seemed a bit harsh. After thinking about it, he said again, it's normal to miss women. Isn't it normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Besides, the women arranged by King Jin are all beautiful. It's as beautiful as a flower, and my heart is moved. Then you won't go out with them. I haven't married my wife yet. I'll wait until I do. Ah. Isn't it more convenient if you don't marry a wife? If you marry a wife, you still plan to look for others. Lu Bachan couldn't understand. A man has a wife first and then a concubine. How can he take a concubine first without marrying a wife? Go Wa said with a serious look. Ah, I dare you to think so. Why don't you want the woman sent by King Jin? Lu Bachan shook his head. General, why don't you want it? Over there. He babbled in the direction of the camp. The 4 sent by King Yan are not bad either. Lu Bachan rolled his eyes at him. If you like it, I'll transfer it to you. Those few eat and drink from me every day, and I almost have no money to support them. Where can I sell them for a few bucks? Why don't you help me, sell it? General, you really don't want it? I'm afraid of your sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is not here. And who can talk to my sister-in-law? They are so far apart. I don't know. You can't ask for it if you don't know. If the lady really took her son into hiding, where would he find them? Lu Bachan rarely even went to banquets. Mukong and his sons invited one round, and then Mukong's subordinates invited another round of officials. Sometimes Lu Bachan went, sometimes he didn't, and sometimes he just showed up and returned. It's really boring. Mukionghua reported to Mukong that after she fell in love with Lu Bachan, Mukong also acquiesced. So Mukong's subordinates were even more enthusiastic towards Lu Bachan. Lu Bachan really couldn't bear such a warm banquet every day. So just after the Lantern Festival, he took a group of subordinates and left in a hurry. Before Kionghua found Lu Bachan to express his love for her, Lu Bachan ran away. How could she be willing to do so? So she followed him with a group of followers. Coincidentally, on the road, they met Xiaoduzi and others who were quietly leading people to look for Lu Bachan. Xiaoduzi led a team to transport gold and silver this time. When I rescued Dabao before, I dug up the bandit bosses in that mountain and wiped out all their private possessions. This time, Zhang Yang and others came to transport the treasure. In addition to leading the way to transport treasures, he also has other tasks. It was with the letters from his master and sister-in-law that he went to see his senior brother Lu Bachan. A group of people entered Shandong and quietly inquired about Lu Bachan's whereabouts. Lu Bachan became famous in the battle in Luzhu years ago. Anyone who knows about this battle knows the location of his team. Xiaoduzi led people to find him quietly. Halfway through, he met Mu Qianghua, who was leading people to chase Lu Bachan. Isn't it a coincidence that the two sides met miraculously? Both teams rested in the wild. Xiaoduzi and the others spoke carelessly, and Qianghua's servants heard them. Qianghua was reported by his servants, and when he heard about his sister-in-law, he brought a letter and so on. I immediately understood what was going on. So Xiaoduzi and others also heard some words specially arranged for them. What? Senior brother joined Mukong and became a general under Mukong. Want to marry Mukong's eldest daughter and become Mukong's son-in-law? What about my sister-in-law? What to do about Xiaobao? My sister-in-law is worried about you at home every day. When she heard the news that you were missing, she immediately traveled thousands of miles and suffered a lot to bring people to look for you. Now that I know that you are in a difficult situation, I have asked me to come to you again with a letter this time, and also asked me to bring you 100,000 taels of silver. And you turned around and wanted to marry another beautiful woman? Then my sister-in-law's 100,000 taels of silver might as well have been fed to the dogs. When a dog is fed, it will wag its tail gratefully at people. What for you? I'll give it to you as a bride price to marry a beautiful woman. Not going. Xiaoduzi was so angry that he turned around and returned to Yuedi with Zhang Yang and others. Qianghua looked at the direction they were going and laughed. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11u. Chapter 360. By the time Xiaoduzi and others returned to Yuedi, it was already out of January and in mid-February. Su Qingliu's son was born. This child was well raised by everyone, and he was kept healthy almost in the autumn and winter. Therefore, in addition to eating well, Su Qingliu also moved less. In addition, Wei Fucain was very nervous and was particularly cautious about this child. So by the time Su Qingliu started having labor pains, she had been lying in bed for 2 days. The baby hasn't been born yet. Wei Fucain was on the verge of collapse. If anything happened to this child or Su Qingliu had another accident, he wouldn't want to live anymore. He was the one who hurt her. If it weren't for him, she, her family, and Yaya would have lived happily ever after. Wei Fucain grabbed his hair and wanted to bang his head against the wall. He was held tightly by Sudahuo, Si Yuan, and others. It's not his fault that a woman gives birth to a child. They understood how he felt. So he took him to stay with him and comfort him. Dr. Mu was invited. Dr. Mu's wife, Mu Wen, who is a gynecologist, went into the room to help. Ling Feng's old wife also went in with her daughter-in-law to help. It wasn't until the evening of the third day that Su Qingliu's Wei Fucain's first son was born. The whole family breathed a sigh of relief. Wei Fucain collapsed on the ground, tears streaming down his face as he listened to the child's loud cries. He is alive again. Is it the younger brother? Is it the younger brother? Xiaobao took Dabao and Yaya with him, scratching at the door frame anxiously, trying to see if he was a younger brother or a younger sister. Looking at Yaya again, her face was full of tears, and she was very puzzled. Sister, why are you crying? My mother hurts so much. I don't want any younger brothers or sisters. Yes, it hurts so much for Auntie to give birth to younger siblings. Xiaobao was so scared when she screamed just now. Turn around and run to find Su Qingliu. Mother, mother. Hey, what's wrong? Mom, did it hurt so much when you gave birth to your baby? Su Qingliu smiled and touched his head. Xiaobao is scared. Xiaobao nodded, I'm a little scared. Mom, if it hurts you so much, Then don't have younger brothers and sisters in the future. Just have Xiaobao and brother. Dabao also ran over, Mom, my brother and I will be obedient. We will always stay with Mom from now on. Yes, Xiaobao will always be with Mom. Xiaobao doesn't want Mom to be in such pain. I just saw my uncle crying. Auntie must be in so much pain. She screamed so miserably, Xiaobao was so scared. Dabao was so frightened that he remembered hearing Sukingliu's shrill scream just now. Sukingyu held the two children in her arms. From now on, Dabao and Xiaobao will stay with mother all the time. It's up to you. Pull the hook. Ever since Dabao learned how to draw a hook, he liked to draw a hook with his mother very much, as if it was a secret between him and his mother. And Xiaobao is the most obedient to his mother, the most well-behaved child, and he likes to hook up with his mother the most. Pull the hook, hang yourself, don't change for 100 years. Pull the hook, hang yourself, don't change for 100 years. The two sons happily hooked up with her. Mom, why do you want to hang yourself by pulling the hook? Dabao already understood the meaning of hanging, but he still didn't understand why he had to pull the hook and hang himself to keep the secret. Does it mean that it will not change after death? Xiaobao didn't understand either. He kept listening to Sukingyu reciting her words and also followed her. He didn't understand the meaning, but he listened to whatever his mother said. Now I heard my brother ask, and I asked him politely what hanging was. So Dabao explained it to him. Xiaobao shivered after hearing this and hurriedly threw himself into his mother's arms. Why don't you want to live? Why do you want to hang yourself? Terrible. Mom, please stop reading this. Xiaobao is scared. I won't pull the hook again. Sukingnao couldn't laugh or cry after hearing this. He pulled his two sons over and said, Mom, let me tell you, this hanging is not what I meant. Mom wants to ask you, have you ever seen your grandparents stringing together copper coins? I've seen it. Grandpa and Grandma count the copper plates to 1,000 and string them into a big string and put them away. Xiaobao can count now. He knows that 1,000 is 1,000. Sukingyu praised him, Xiaobao is right. 1,000 coins are 1,000, and 1,000 copper coins is one hanging. When Grandpa and Grandma count enough coins, they string them together and collect the money, which is called hanging. It's like slinging money. Then tie it up and put it away, so that the money you put away won't be used. That's the meaning of hanging. It means that once a person makes a contract and makes a promise to the other party, it is just like a tied bucket of money. It means that it cannot be changed easily. Pulling the hook and hanging means that you must abide by the agreement. Do you understand? I understand. Brother, if you don't understand, ask your mother. Don't scare Xiaobao. Xiaobao will be scared to death by you. Xiaobao patted his chest. Dabao lowered his head, brother, I'm sorry. Mother. It's okay, just ask if you don't understand. Once you ask, you won't misunderstand again, right? Like Xiaobao, you can't understand even if you don't understand. I don't know whether this one hanged himself or which one hanged himself. Oh, is he a younger brother or a younger sister? Xiaobao has to go see him. He ran away in a flash. Dabao also hurriedly followed to take a look. Sukingyu shook her head and laughed. By the time Xiaoduzi arrived at the village, the child named Wei Yuning had already passed 3 days of washing. The Su family has added a little grandson, and Su's father and mother can't close their mouths with joy. Only when the population is prosperous can the family business prosper. Seeing that the eldest daughter now has a husband who loves her and has given birth to a son, the old couple has a lot of things to worry about and they are happy all day long. Teach Wei Fucane how to take care of children. Wei Fucane had children, but he never personally handled them. When he arrived at the Su family, although the family had servants, they did everything by themselves and raised their children by themselves. He also learned how to change his son's diapers and bathe his son. As long as he is at home, he does everything by himself. Holding his son with a doting look on his face, he was reluctant to let go. Before Xiaoduzi came, he also knew that his sister-in-law's sister was going to have a baby. Kui Shiniang packed up a lot of things for children and asked him to deliver them. There are also various things for little and big babies. Knowing that they were studying and practicing calligraphy, I gave them many for treasures of the study. Seeing that the family had a new baby, he was very happy. He didn't want to tell his sister-in-law the bad things he heard, but when he thought about returning the 100,000 taels of silver that his sister-in-law had given him, he decided not to hide it from her. Moreover, Master and Mrs. Kui also said to tell my sister-in-law the truth and not to hide it. When Su Qingyu heard what Xiaoduzi said, she was stunned. Is Lu Bachan going to marry the daughter of King Jin? Bringing 10,000 soldiers to join the king of Jin and become his son-in-law? Are there still 4 beauties sent by King Yan in the barracks? In order to support his 10,000 soldiers and horses, Lu Bachan wanted to abandon his useless wife, marry another beautiful woman, and join the king of Jin to work for the king of Jin? Has he forgotten the 3 chapters of their agreement? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 361. Xiaoduzi couldn't bear to see Su Qingyu's stunned expression. Read. Sister-in-law, don't be sad. Master said that senior brother may have his own reasons. He has more than 10,000 soldiers and 10,000 horses who need to eat and drink. Now he has no financial source to provide military supplies. If he doesn't surrender, Mukong cannot support more than 10,000 people and horses. Xiaoduzi now regrets that he was just angry at that time and did not go forward to meet his senior brother and ask about it. I just inquired quietly and heard that my senior brother had 4 beauties in the barracks, so he ran away in anger. After I came back, I was scolded by my master. Now he thought about it, if he wanted to raise more than 10,000 men and horses, he had no choice. Maybe for the sake of his subordinates, he would marry the daughter of King Jin and get the food, grass, and various military supplies to support the team from King Jin. Sister-in-law, this is the 100,000 taels you gave me. I was so angry that I didn't give it to my senior brother. Xiaoduzi did not say whether he had met Lu Bachan. Su Qingyu also thought that they had already met and confirmed the news. So a misunderstanding was formed. Su Qingyu silently took the banknote back. Sister-in-law, don't be sad. Master said that no matter how many women my senior brother marries or how many children he has, you will always be the first wife, and Xiaobao will be the eldest son of his first wife. I reassure you that Master will support you. Su Qingyu smiled at Xiaoduzi and nodded to him. Xiaoduzi was even more sad when he saw it. But she couldn't think of anything else to say to comfort her, and she was anxious in her heart. Perform. It happened that Xiaobao heard that Uncle Xiaoduzi came to the mountains. Came here in a hurry. Uncle Xiaoduzi, Uncle Xiaoduzi. Hey, Xiaobao. Come, give Uncle Xiaoduzi a hug and see if he has grown taller. Xiaobao opened his arms towards him as he ran. I've grown taller. Xiaobao is already 4 years old. My grandma said that the clothes I wore last year were too short. Really? Sure enough, Xiaobao has grown taller again. It's great. Xiaoduzi caught Xiaobao, threw him high in his arms, and spun him around several times, making the child very happy. Xiaobao hugged his neck. Uncle Xiaoduzi, Mom said you went to find Xiaobao's father, have you found him? Found it? Xiaobao's eyes lit up. Really? What does Xiaobao's father look like? How tall is he? Is he fat or thin? Does he have a beard like his grandfather? Does he look like Xiaobao? The small mouth maid Sukingyu on the side couldn't help but feel upset. Xiaobao, come down quickly. Uncle Xiaoduzi is tired. You have grown up and you still need to be hugged. Xiaobao refused and hugged Xiaoduzi's neck. No, Xiaobao is not heavy. Xiaobao is asking Uncle Xiaoduzi about Xiaobao's father. Xiaobao has never seen his father, and mother can't let Xiaobao ask more questions. A few words. What are you asking? Come down quickly. No, not really. Sukingyu was already irritable. When she heard that her son was disobedient, she immediately stepped forward to hug him down and patted his little butt a few times. What are you asking? You know what to do. Your father is gone. Xiaobao covered his little buttocks, and it hurt a little from the mother's spanking this time. He raised his head and said, Why is my father gone? Uncle Xiaoduzi has gone to find my father. If it's gone, it's gone. Why is daddy gone? Xiaobao was very persistent. He chased Sukingyu and asked. Sukingyu felt extremely annoyed and anxious in her heart, and blurted out, Your father, like those powerful generals, died for the country and is no longer here. Sukingyu didn't know why she blurted out and gave the child such an answer. Every night I tell heroic stories to my two sons. The two sons were learning martial arts from Ma Xian, and they most liked to hear about generals who served the country and the people, so Sukingyu chose stories about famous generals from various dynasties and generations to tell them. I heard that Xiaobao's father was also a general. Xiaobao immediately remembered his father in his heart. From time to time, I asked Lu Bachan some things. Sukingyu is now worried, saying that Lu Bachan is no longer here and died for the country. Xiaobao has long understood what this means. After hearing this, he was stunned for a moment, then he raised his head and cried loudly, Wow, Dad! When Sukingyu saw her son crying so miserably, she couldn't help feeling heartbroken. She wanted to go over and hug him, but she didn't move an inch. Su's father and Su's mother were alarmed by Xiaobao's cry and ran out. Seeing the child crying sadly, I felt extremely distressed. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with our little baby? Xiaobao cried with tears all over his face. Xiaobao's father is gone, no longer here. Wow, Xiaobao's father died for the country, wow. Ah! Qing Lao, is this true? Xiaoduzi looked embarrassed and was about to explain when Sukingyu took the lead and said, Yeah, nodding. Ah, how could it be? Su's father and mother were shocked. My feet are weak. This, what should we do? What should the young prostitute do? What should Xiaobao do? Xiaobao is so young, what should I do? When Xiaobao heard this, he cried even louder, crying and calling for his father. The old couple cried until their hearts ached. Oh, baby, don't cry, don't cry. With red eyes, he carried his grandson into the house. Sister-in-law. Xiaoduzi didn't know what to say. Just treat him as dead. Don't send letters to him in the future. And don't tell him about me and Xiaobao. This sister-in-law, is she disowning her senior brother? Don't let Xiaobao recognize it. Xiaoduzi originally wanted to stay in the village for a few more days, but when he saw the bleak atmosphere in the Su family, he was too scared to stay still and ran to the barracks to look for Ma Xian. When he told Ma Xian let out a long sigh. But he somewhat understood Lu Bachan. He has to support an army of 10,000 people. How can he do it without relying on him? Either he will defect to this, or he will defect to that. Being the son-in-law of the king of Jin, the relationship will be stronger than if he simply defected to the past. But what about my sister-in-law and Xiaobao? Can King Jin make his daughter a concubine? It's impossible to be a concubine. But it's impossible for your master to agree to let your sister-in-law be reduced to a concubine and let the king of Jin's daughter grow up. Your sister-in-law is not without support. She has the king of you behind her. If you don't want to be a concubine, do you want me to be both big and big? Ma Xian let out a long sigh. I've been with your sister-in-law for so long, so I know her well. Not to mention becoming a concubine, even if I'm married, she won't agree to it. Otherwise, she wouldn't tell Xiaobao that his father is gone. After Ma Xian finished speaking, he sighed, I'm just worried about Xiaobao now. He just understands what dad is. He knows that dad is a general. He regards dad as a hero. He talks about my dad being a general and a hero every day. Now, but what to do? Uncle Xian, why don't you go and persuade my sister-in-law? How can you tell Xiaobao that my senior brother is gone? How will you explain this if my senior brother comes back in the future? Ma Xian glanced at him sideways. How do you explain that it's your senior brother's business? I just teach Xiaobao well. Without your senior brother, your sister-in-law can also teach Xiaobao well. Why should you compete with others for your father? We love him even if he doesn't have a father. Xiaoduzi scratched his head. Uncle Xian, do you think my senior brother did this right or wrong? Ma Xian was silent for a long time. Loyalty, filial piety, benevolence, and justice have always been difficult to complete since ancient times. He couldn't help but feel sorry for Qing Lao, who had guarded him for so many years and raised the children by himself, but he didn't do this in order to have a place to go for his 10,000 men. People said he was wrong. Xiaoduzi fell silent. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 362. Su Qingyu coaxed Xiaobao for a few days, lying in bed every night, thinking about Lu Bachan. Read. If she were Lu Bachan, with 10,000 troops, how would she choose? But no matter what, she couldn't accept working with someone else. As early as their wedding night, they had made a 3-part agreement. Lu Bachan agreed to her. Now that he can't do it, she will treat him as if he doesn't exist. I told Xiaobao that his father was gone, I just said it, and I didn't plan to take it back. Anyway, the child has never seen his father since he was born. He is the same without his father. It doesn't affect his happy growth. Although she had figured it out in her mind, she was still confused. So she decided to leave early for Tiantai Yongjia. Su's father and mother knew that she was going to another place, so they held her in tears. Don't want her to go. But her son-in-law is gone, and she knows that she feels uncomfortable. Do not know what to do. How good is this? King Liu finally found a man who loved her, started a family, and gave birth to a son. I thought that the young concubine was a man of good fortune, but the box of gold that my son-in-law asked someone to bring back was still lying untouched at home. But why is this gone? What should I do as a young prostitute? The couple hadn't slept for several days. I shed tears at night. Qing Lao, it's better not to go. You're at home with your parents, your sisters, and brothers. The big baby and the little baby also need you. Mother Su pulled her, not wanting her to leave. Su Qingyu lowered her head. Mom, I want to go out and have a look. I made an agreement with my godfather last year. Then, Dad will go with you. Mother Su glanced at him, opened her mouth, but said nothing. No, Dad. You'd better stay at home and help me look after the winter wheat in the mountains, and the seedlings will be planted soon. If I come back late, there are still many things in the fields for Dad to worry about. There's also the rice noodle room. Over there, shopkeeper Ding has increased the order quantity, and my father and brother-in-law are helping me keep an eye on it. Well, Dad is here, don't worry. Why don't you let Fu Chang go with you? There will be someone to take care of you on the way. So King Liu felt very sorry for Qing now when she learned that her sister-in-law was gone. Yes, let me accompany you, Wei Fu Kang also said. No, I'll just take Siyuan with me. My godfather has also sent people to follow. Besides, you and Xiangshang are busy with the shops in the village and in the city, and we are going to Reishu and surrounding cities this year. I'll leave the sauce shop matters to you as well. Don't worry. I will take care of the shop. Qing Lao, let me go with you, Sudahu suddenly said. Su Qingyu glanced at him and was about to refuse when Sudahu said again, I heard you say that there are many mountains on the Yongjia side of Tiantai. I also had some experience in the mine last year and learned some from a few people who were good at prospecting. I want to go and have a look. Su Qingyu looked at him steadily. Then he nodded, okay. Then you leave the matters in the mine to Uncle Xian and let him arrange someone to take charge. Okay, don't worry. I'll take care of it. The adult's work is done well, but Xiaobao and Dabao's work is not so easy. Ma Xian returned from Reishu, and Dabao and Xiaobao also resumed their routine of learning martial arts every day. But the fact that his father is gone has really hit Xiaobao. The child languished for several days, like an eggplant beaten by frost, lifeless. I don't want to learn anything anymore. I stick to Su Qingnao every day. Su Qingyu followed him wherever he went. He hugged her tightly even when sleeping. After a short sleep, I opened my eyes and looked at her. Seeing her sleeping next to him, he closed his eyes and fell asleep again. If you don't see her on the bed when you open your eyes, sit up and cry, calling you mother. Su Qingnao felt distressed and regretful at the same time. Why tell your children that their father is gone? Let the image of the glorious hero disappear from the child's world. It made him feel insecure. Su Qingnao personally sent him to Ma Xian for several days and picked him up every night. But every time she lifted her legs to leave, Xiaobao would turn around and run towards her, hugging her thighs and not letting her leave. Sometimes she would force him to leave and Xiaobao would cry. Later, after Ma Xian coaxed her again and again, she got better. Now when I heard that Su Qingyu was leaving home, I hugged her lap and cried again. Mom, Xiaobao won't let you leave. Xiaobao has no father, and he doesn't want to lose his mother. Wow! He cried so hard that tears and snot dripped from his nose. The whole family cried until their hearts were broken. Su Qingnao delayed for several days but still couldn't make it. I had to coax him and said, Uncle Xiaoduza said that Dad is missing, but Mom doesn't believe it. Mom wants to go and check to see if he is missing. Can Mom go help Xiaobao look for Dad? Xiaobao raised a pair of tearful eyes. The tears were stained on his eyelashes and would not fall off. His big eyes were soaked with tears and were watery. He looked straight at her, really. There was a strong light of expectation in his eyes. When Su Qingyu looked at it, her heart suddenly felt stinging. She picked him up, kissed him, and coaxed, yes. Maybe Uncle Xiaoduza's news is wrong. Mom, go and find out. Xiaobao, please stay at home and wait for your mother, okay? It seems like overnight, the child has grown up and knows what his father is. When I was younger, I had my mother, my grandparents, my uncles and aunts with me, but I never thought of my father. Ever since I learned Kung Fu, I knew how to ask my father. Xiaobao struggled for a long time. Mom, you must find out clearly, okay? Can you get Xiaobao's father back? Xiaobao doesn't want to be without a father. Su Qingyu could only nod, okay. After coaxing the child, Su Qingyu set out on the road. Looking back at her two sons holding hands as they saw her off at the door, she felt reluctant to let go for the first time. Maybe when the two children are older, we can take them around together. Never separate again. It's nice to have something to do and have my son by my side. Su Qingyu and his party first arrived in Reishu and first entered the Yu Prince's mansion. Ma Mingwen had a deep talk with her. Got her attitude. Ma Mingwen didn't know how to persuade her. He could understand how she felt. He only has Lineang in his heart, and Lineang only has him in her heart. But he still has Kui Yueying. It seems normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. And Bo Cheng is in a difficult situation. But if Bo Cheng abandons Qing Nao and Xiaobao because of other women and lets other women surpass them in terms of status, he will not agree. Ma Mingwen decided to send another letter to Lu Bachan and ask him what he thought. I asked Xiaoduzi to go there, but the kid didn't even meet his senior brother. He just made some inquiries and ran away in anger. Kui Yueying held Su Qingyu's hand and talked all night. Young lady, it's normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. As long as others don't surpass your and Xiaobao's status, just let them go. Bo Cheng wants to do big things. And Kui, I can live a good life by myself. I can also bring up Xiaobao by myself. After talking all night, Su Qingyu still couldn't untie the knot in her heart. Kui Yueying was so distressed that she didn't know what to do. On the second day, Su Qingyu took the information from the 2 places given by Ma Mingwen and some people she had arranged. She left Reyes Hu with people and things.